everybody, and welcome to After School Club. My name is Kim. I am a community learning specialist with Do Space, and today is Wednesday, so it is Make It, and we are doing our last part of our tiny crocheted pineapples. So if you've been following along with us for the last couple weeks, you will know that we have been working to make a tiny little pineapple like this. Mine is looking like this because I ran out of yellow yarn to give out to people. And so I've been using some green yarn. And so we are basically done. Last week we finished up making the pineapple part, and today we are going to be making the stem. So I am just making a crazy little psychedelic pineapple, and so I'm going to be using white yarn as the stem. But if you have signed up for our Take and Make and you received one of our kits, then you will have received the yellow, and so you most likely use that to make our pineapple, and so you will be starting with the green yarn to make the the stem part of it. So that is what we are going to be doing today. So we're going to be making it and then attaching it on to our little guy. So yeah. So what you are going to need today is you are going to need your hook, your tapestry needle, or your tapestry needle, your little plastic needle, and your green yarn. I'm using white, but you will be using green. So that is good. So you should have, again, so your little ball of yarn probably looks like this. I was using kind of like a long skein. Skein is like a long, basically wound yarn that is like long. This is a yarn ball, and a lot of times when yarn balls are wound up, there is a part in the middle that you can kind of pull from the working yarn, and so you should have a kind of a loosey piece of the yarn that is coming out from the middle, and so you're going to want to pull from that. You could pull from the outside, so I can see this is like the yarn that is going around from the outside. You could pull from that, but then your yarn ball kind of twirls around. When it comes from the center, it just nicely kind of comes out. You can keep it upright. It won't roll away. So what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be, our stem is not going to it doesn't take very much to do. So ours might be a little bit shorter than our past couple weeks. But we will make the stem, attach it onto your pineapple, and then you will have a tiny little adorable crocheted pineapple. So lots of fun. So we are going to be actually starting out doing that magic ring. So I have my pattern here. This is the pattern I've been using, and so again, this is what we're using. And so I have our pattern from the stem, and you can see here that it says with the green yarn. Oof, we're a little bit out of, there we go. We want to make a magic ring. So I'm actually probably gonna bring this down a little bit so that, maybe bring it out a bit. Okay. So we are going to be, with our green yarn, we're going to be making doing the magic ring again. So we used the magic ring when we started our pineapple. That was like how we started things off. So we are just going to be doing that again. And so basically, hopefully you remember, we're going to be, we have the end of your yarn. You want it to kind of like go over your fingers, and then you're going to be kind of wanting it to go over and around your index finger and your middle finger, and kind of crossing that yarn so it makes this X. And then you're going to be taking your hook, and you're going to be kind of going in, kind of like underneath one, like the right part of your X, and with your hook you're going to be grabbing that left part of your, kind of bringing it up and out. So let me try to do that one more time. So we have our, this is going to be our tail. Everything over here is our working yarn. So we're bringing our tail up and over our ring and index finger. We're going to be crossing it. So basically this strand right here is our working yarn. This string is our tail. We're going to be going underneath the tail part of the X. Oops, if I want to. And going and grabbing that working yarn and bringing it kind of up and out. And we're going to be and then we're going to take our fingers kind of out of that hole because we are wanting that to leave open. So we have our open yarn, and then you can kind of hold on to. So as I took my, hand off, my left hand off of the ring, I'm using my right hand to kind of hold on to that magic ring so it doesn't come undone. I'm kind of pulling on a little bit on that working yarn. And then you can see that we need to chain 5. So we need to chain 5. And again, that we're just going to do 5 chains. So we're going to be kind of yarning over, coming from the back to the front. And then we're going to be, with our hook, be bringing that yarn through that loop. And we're going to do that 5 times. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we have our fine 5 chains. We can't tell if that's blurry or not. Hopefully it's not too blurry, but we can see we have our 5 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 5 V's. And so then it says we need to basically slip stitch. So SLST, if we can, there we go, means, oh, come on, get into focus, please. Focus, please. I think that's a little focus. We need to slip stitch 4 across the chain. So basically what that means, so we have chain 5, right? We got our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are going to skip our last chain. We're going to skip this one, and we're going to basically to number 4. I don't know if that helps. It's kind of tricky to tell. Basically, we're going to go to number 4, and we are going to, that is the stitch we are going to insert our needle, or sorry, our hook in. So we're skipping this one. We're skipping number 5. I wish it would focus better. I'm wondering, I'm going to maybe put it on a black background. Maybe that'll help. Ooh. There we go. That's a little bit better. Okay. It's not wanting to focus, is it? We got a new camera, friends, so we might be working with few things. So we'll see. Hopefully it won't stay. I wonder if we can take the focus off of other things. It'll focus on my, there we go, I think. Okay, anyway, we're skipping 4, 5, and we're going into number 4. So basically to do our slip stitch, we're going to be going into, just like if we were doing any other kind of, I made mine kind of tight, my chains. So again, if you're kind of new, make sure you're doing it a little bit less tight. That tension really makes a difference. And so what you're going to do is you're going to slip stitch. Basically, you're going into that stitch, you're grabbing the yarn, and if we were doing a regular stitch, at this point would be yarning over and pulling this yarn through both of these loops. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to pull that loop, the second one, through the first one, and that is our first slip stitch. So we're going to do that to the rest of them. And hopefully, I might see if maybe lifting up does a little bit better. Ooh, we'll see. Well, hopefully it won't be too fuzzy. wasn't being too bad earlier, so I apologize if this gets a little bit tricky because it's fuzzy. So we're going to go into then so basically we're going to be doing 4 slip stitches into the last 4. So we just did 1, so we're going to go into our chain number 3, and again we're kind of like yarning over, bringing that yarn through the stitch and then through your loop. Going to be going into stitch number 2 or chain number 2, yarning over, bringing it through the stitch, and then through the loop, and then in our very first chain. You might have to kind of twist it. It wants to twist on me. So you might have to kind of twist it towards you to kind of get that stitch. So here is my last stitch. Well, it's my last chain, I guess. Okay. So then through the loop. Okay, and so then you can kind of see you have like a little nubbin guy. So then our next part of our directions or our pattern is we need to then chain 4 and slip stitch 3 across the chain. Oops, sorry, lies. First off, so we chained our 5, we slip stitch 4 across the chain, and then we need to slip stitch in the ring. So we have our ring, right? Our ring is open here. So now we have our open ring, so we want to insert, we have our insert our hook inside the ring, yarn over, and then bring that there. So then we have slip stitched inside the yarn. Oh my goodness, friends. Just one moment. My room is based off of movement. Let's see if I can, there's like, there we go. There are monitors, sensors, or movement sensors in the room that I'm in, and there is something right that blocks where I'm sitting from the monitor, or from that movement monitor sensor, and so yeah, our lights turned off. Okay, anyway, so we just slipped inside our ring, so now we need to chain 4 and then slip stitch across 3. So we're going to chain 3, and these are where, like when I talked about, we kind of talked about this in the very, very first week, how you could either have like really, really tight chains where you're super, super, like you're just like, you're really bringing over that yarn and you're really just tightly bringing it through this loop, or you can have pretty loose ones where it's just kind of loosey-goosey. And so the looser they are, the easier they are when you're doing any kind of like stitches, like our slip stitch or our single crochet stitch to kind of get your hook into. So I always suggest especially when your chain is to making chain stitches, I always think it's nice to make them loose. So I'm going to do, that was 1, oops, so I'm going to yarn over and do, that was 2, 3, and 4. So we have our 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to again skip our number 4, and we're going to chain, or we're going to slip stitch into basically our 3rd chain. So I'm now realizing maybe white was not the best color. I think it's just like doing a lot of crazy things, but we'll make it work. So slip stitched into I might do that again. I think I'm gonna do that again. This yarn is, as you can see, it's like fraying a lot, so it makes it easier for my hook to like kind of hook onto other kind of the strands of the thread of the yarn. Okay, so then I'm gonna actually, if we're gonna go through there, and then so that was 1, 2, and then through that, and then 3. Through the stitch and through the loop. Okay, so then we've done our 4 or chain 4, slip stitch across 3, and then we need to again slip stitch in the ring. So I got my ring, and I'm gonna put my, need a hook in, I'll get it behind. I'm gonna put my hook inside the ring, yarn over, bring it out of the ring, and then through my loop. And then we need to chain 5 again, slip stitch across 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and oops, see how I caught, I kind of split the strand and I caught something in there. Okay, so that's 5. Okay, so we are going to, we have our 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to skip number 5 and go right into our 4th chain stitch. Yarning over, bringing through the stitch and through the loop. Ugh. And then into number 3, yarn, bringing through the in the stitch, yarning through the stitch and through the loop. So then number 2. Oof, you guys, I apologize that this is like not the best. I thought it would be better, but this white is pretty kind of rough. So I apologize. Maybe I should have just done the green. It would have been green on green. Okay, so that was number, oh, yep, that's like that. Okay, so then through the stitch and through the loop. We'll go through number 2, chain number 2, yarn over, pull through the stitch and through the loop, and then into number 1, chain number 1, yarn over, through the stitch, and through the loop. Okay, then we need to, again, kind of need to bring like a slip stitch into our ring. So I'm gonna put my hook inside the ring, yarn over, bring it through the ring, and then through the loop. So now we have these 3 little nubby guys that we just crocheted. And now if we pull the tail, I'm gonna kind of, this is our working yarn, we're gonna pull that so it's a little bit, but then if we pull the tail, you can see that our ring is shortening up. So now you kind of have 3 little guys. And now we can, you know, you want to pull this out a little bit. This is our working yarn. This was the loop that we had our working yarn from. So you can, you know, pull that a little bit, cut it off, and then you can pull your working yarn through. So you're gonna have 2 tails. And then really, let's see. And you're gonna, now all we need to do is attach it. So this is gonna go right on here. It's kind of like a little hat. Mine's gonna look funny because it's like green on white, but it's gonna end up looking like this and looking super, super cute. So really this is like, we'll kind of, let's like, I was forgetting that we're gonna have all this much tail. Let's get this, you know, let's sew this in first. I'm gonna have us sew this in. So basically, again, if you're around last week, then especially with like crocheting, I think it's like so much easier, at least to hide your tails for finishing. So you'll need your tapestry hook, and again, so you'll just want to like, you can kind of see like, ooh, it's a little bit tricky. There's just like kind of loops that you can like just put your needle through. And basically this just causes it so that when we cut off any excess tail, it won't start to like unravel, because this, especially this, like the yarn that you're going to be using at home, it's very textured, so it's going to kind of cling onto itself. So the likelihood of it like, you know, unraveling is very, very minimal. Because it's just going to really cling on to each other. So you'll want to do that. Can I have my, which side? Oh, which side is their tail? There we go. And so, you know, depending on your yarn, you'll want to do this, you know, a couple of times, maybe 3 or 4 times, or even like 6 or 7 times, really get it in there. If you have really slick yarn that might unravel easily, you can do that. So yeah, so then what you can do is just cut that off, and you can barely even tell that it's there. And so what we're going to do now is we're just going to basically then almost do the exact same thing with this. So what I'm actually going to do, instead of doing just one strand, what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to cut these strands so they're a little bit even. See how they're a little uneven? I'm just going to cut them so they're even. And then I'm actually going to thread both of these strands onto my tapestry needle. I'm thinking yours is going to be easier because the yarn that I'm using, just frays really, really easy. So hopefully I might just do one at a time. If you need to, you can kind of just like, sometimes you can just need to do a little re-snip. I'm actually going to do one at a time. I was being arrogant and thinking I could do both at the same time. But I could not. So, okay. So I got one in there. I'm going to put my other one, my other strand of yarn. And so I'm actually just going to go do both of these at the same time. So basically, you can actually even, before I was kind of doing just around like, almost like top layers of the loops, because you can kind of see that there's like, here's like a top or like a loop that's kind of going over other strands. I'm actually going to be going inside. You can kind of see how I'm actually going to be going inside of our guy, just so that it doesn't like, we don't see white yarn up on the top layer. So I'm actually going to kind of go in and then out. And then I'm now realizing, oh, come on. My yarn is wanting to get stuck. Yeah, I'm not really sure if I like that. So you might have to just kind of play around with how you attach this. So what you could do is you can kind of, if you wanted to, I mean, you might have like a little bit of white or green, I guess, for you, because you're going to be using green coming up. And that actually might not look bad because, you know, it's like, you know, it's, you know, you can kind of do it as like a, it's just part of the stem, you know. Mine might look a little bit funky because mine's green and white. But even so, even when I do it like that, I can kind of hide it. So it's a little bit hidden. But even if I wanted to, and even though I don't love the fact that this is kind of why you want to keep your tails long, because you can see just how quickly it shortens up. And like if I wanted to snip this so I could, oh, this is just rough yarn. I'm realizing I thought this was the same kind of yarn, only white, and I'm realizing that it is not. It is a very different type of yarn. So, and it's fraying pretty easily, but you shouldn't have that too much of that problem. Ooh, there we go. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to just do one and kind of go underneath the strands that I just made. And what I'm actually going to do, you know what, friends? I'm just actually going to make a little knot, a little baby knot, because we're already going to have a little bit of, I'm just going to do a little double knot like that. So it's on there. And then you can just snip off. And the nice thing about it, if you need it to, this can kind of, you can kind of situate it. So these, you know, kind of press it down into your, almost like into your pineapple. So yeah. So now I have a little attached strand. So yours should probably look a little bit more like this. And it might be a little bit wobbly, and that's okay. You know, another thing you can do is like with the tail, you could always kind of sew through your, and I should have made, if you have any extra yarn, like I could take some extra yarn if I wanted to and just cut a little bit off. And what you could always do is, if yours is a little weebly wobbly, take some of your extra green yarn and actually even kind of thread through a little bit of your stem, and you can always kind of sew it down like that. You can see, I'm not going to keep it, but you can see just by doing this, it's so much more stable. So, and obviously if you had green yarn, it would be better. So you could just like kind of stabilize it a little bit more by going through this so it's not as weebly wobbly. So that's an option. Yeah, I mean, you should have plenty of green. I think I gave everybody a ton of green. I had a lot more green than I did yellow, so obviously. But yeah, so basically that is kind of it for our crocheted pineapple. The nice thing about it, like as I was saying, telling you guys last week, there are a lot of, if you enjoyed this, if you enjoyed crocheting, there are just so many resources out there. Ravelry, Ravelry, Ravelry.com is a great, you make an account, but they have like patterns, and you can, you know, search for free patterns, or ones if you wanted to pay for, you could, but free patterns, or patterns for beginners. You know, or like, I know like different brands, like Lions brand makes like really, you know, this was pretty, fairly thin yarn. I mean, it's kind of, this is middle of the weight, kind of middle of the road in terms of like thickness, but we used a pretty small hook. So if you wanted to do something a little bit more bulky, you know, some thicker yarn with a bigger hook, that might be a lot of fun. You can make like, you know, a a bulky scarf or something like that. And scarves are nice and fun because a lot of times they're just, you're going back and forth for just, you can make it, as thin or as thick as you want, and then just kind of go with that. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed making our little crocheted pineapples. So hopefully you can join us for February's Take and Makes. If you, I believe, hopefully you have signed up for our Take and Make kit if you are watching or joining us from the Omaha metro area. If I believe all of them are accounted for, so but a lot of the things that we're doing, especially like the first one, you would be able to, like, a lot of stuff is like household stuff. We are making a zoetrope. And then the third, that was the first week of February. This second week of February, we are making a room, like a little alarm, kind of like a room alarm to alarm you or anybody else of somebody entering your room. And then the third and fourth week, we are kind of making this a little bit of a light sensor, and then that will make sounds as well. So kind of dealing with circuitry for the third and second, third, and fourth week of our Make It. So hopefully you can join us then. Yeah, thanks for joining us today, and hopefully your little pineapple turned out great. If you joined us and you made your pineapple, please post on Facebook, post on our social media. You can see at the top, if you're watching us from Twitch, you should see all of our handles for all of our social media. We would love to see pictures of your creation, so let us know how it went for you guys. Perfect. Well, you guys, thanks so much for joining me, and we will see you next time. Have a good one. Bye-bye.